All right, hello everybody. This brief recording is going to talk about the class dimension and how it affects Intact's purchasing and reporting. So in this, we're going to cover what is class, where is class located, what information to use, why is class being used, which accounts require it, how approvals are affected, and the reports using class. Just like any other standard dimension, classes are simply tags with a set of values that you can associate with transactions to create and filter reports. Other types of dimensions we use in Intact now are programs, checkbooks, funding sources, item IDs, or all a type of class. Vendor, customer. So these are things we've been using in Intact now for the nearly 4 years we've had Intact. This is a thing that most other users aren't using in terms of using the class dimension. I've covered the training in prior trainings. I've covered these types of dimensions. There's a link in this presentation you can use to go here to be directed to the slide deck I've done before on this. The most recent training was in January. So where can we find class ID now? If we're doing purchasing, in between item ID and memo is a field that says class. So clicking into this field is what's going to enable us to select from the drop-down box the options available to us, which include COVID-19 and regular. If we're looking at journal entries, or we're going to complete a journal entry, it'll be the last column of the line entry field. We're using the class dimension to allow the tribe to easily and quickly differentiate its spending from regular programmatic activity with the spending related to COVID-19. Without the use of the field to designate purchasing transactions for this purpose, reporting on a regular basis would become difficult. And we have two things that are happening, which is the tribe has received special funds related to COVID-19. So those funding sources are capable of producing their own reports for that spending. But for the rest of the money and the rest of the funding sources we have, we may not be able to report on that unless we flag that during the purchasing process. And if we don't flag it in any capacity, and we're out there buying stuff related to COVID-19, cleaning supplies, tests, special uniforms for employees, that type of stuff, if we're not flagging it now, and we want to report on this either on a regular basis to tribal council or to the COVID task force or to anyone else, we're not going to be able to differentiate it between our normal spending. And so now we have to use a special field, and the class field is what's being used. The benefit of using the class field, besides being able to flag it in advance, is since this is a relatively new implementation, you can look backwards and identify spending that was related to COVID-19 and ask the program monitor to reclassify that activity to add the class dimension. So your past spending will show up on reports. Which accounts require the use of class? Currently, as of today, April 23rd, it's about 82 account numbers. You can go to the General Ledger application, and then from the menu option, the first one on the top, there's an option that says General Ledger Accounts. You can click on that. For most users, you probably haven't been there before. So when you click into there, you're going to have a view that says Default. And you can just click on that or click on All. And when you do, you can choose from a different type set of views. And there's one view that's called Class Required. When we click on that, it'll give you a list of all the accounts that require the use of the class dimension. And you can do that at any time. So how does this affect approvals? The requirement that class be used with general ledger accounts means that the system will check for the use of the class field when a request is being posted to the general ledger. not when a document is submitted. This works similar to the vendor document number field. That field doesn't allow the use of repeated information. And you don't get the error whenever that happens. The person that's the final approver is the one who receives the error. So in that case, some of us have had Lynette reach out to us to say, we've repeated a number that we've used before. This also works just like encumbrances and expenses. Those items aren't booked until a document is approved. And because that's when those transactions are occurring and getting posted to the general ledger, that means the error doesn't occur until that final approval is happening. So it's important for users to be proactive in either using that general ledger accounts view to see which one's requiring it, or just to use the field at all times. And this also means that if required fields are not used, the person who is the final approver will receive an error that the required field was not used, and the system cannot allow the document to go further until that is addressed. And of course, the way Intact works, those people who are approvers are unable to edit your requests. The only person that can edit the request, or the only way you can edit the request, is to deny the transaction and then have the field used. So it's important for users to make sure those fields are being used when they're required to be, to reduce the possibility of delaying any transactions from having to be adjusted at the end of the road. There are several reports you can use to report on class. Under General Ledger, there's 4. You can use account balances, trial balance, General Ledger balance, and dimension balances. And under financial reports, there's a report called COVID-19 by class. Any of these will report, you'll be able to designate when class was being used or when it wasn't used, and to find out your activity. So let's get into Intact and take a look. So when we go to purchasing, and I want to add a standard purchase requisition, on the line entry, in between item ID and memo, there is class. And when I hit the drop-down box, I can see the options that are available. The options are listed alphabetically. So COVID-19 is the first option. And then regular is located currently in the 4th slot. There are 3 other options, dental, medical, and vision. These are fields that community service has been using now for a while to flag their medical assistance that they use to better track the type of assistance they provide. So for the rest of us, we want to use COVID-19 or regular. And when you select that, and you can fill in the rest of your information just as you would a normal purchase, and you can submit. And that's going to be like that on all the major purchasing transactions. This includes standard purchase recs, program director workflow, justification, prepaid expense request, contract services requisitions, purchase orders, contract service POs, closed partial POs, vouchers, non-PO vouchers, emergency voucher requests. All those fields will require the use of the class designation. To view which account numbers require class, we will go to General Ledger, General Ledger Accounts. Most users will land on the default view, which will just be every single thing. And you can easily come up to here to click on all, get your menu, and choose class required. And this will list, currently as of the recording of this, 82 accounts that require the use of class. That could be contracts, office supplies, janitorial supplies, and a variety of other accounts. So you could take a look at this as you're making a request to spend and say, if one of the account numbers you're going to use matches one of the ones on this list, that's the clue to us that we need to select either COVID-19 or regular. If the account number we're looking for, such as utilities, is not listed, utilities does not require the use of class. If we don't want to take the extra step to look at general ledger accounts, from the purchasing workflow, just use the class field. Pick something and hit submit. And just make sure we're using the right designation. And we're using this to help report on all COVID-19 related expenses. So if we're going to use this for reporting, I can go to the report center and we'll have a report that everyone can access called COVID-19 by class. And so when you go to that, just like your regular reporting stuff, you'd be able to put in your program, your checkbook, and funding source. So this would be one option that you can use once you have your filters put in to run a report. Another option would be to go to General Ledger and, for example, the Dimension Balances report. And from here we can choose our reporting period. It defaults to current month, so I'm going to leave it on current month. Wants to use our accrual book, meaning the transactions that have actually been posted, such as expenses. This will not include encumbrances. This would only include the actual posting of any revenue and expenses. And so I'm going to leave it at accrual. From here we can choose one account number or a range of account numbers. We can choose multiple accounts. I'm going to choose all accounts. And in the account group, I'm going to choose all expense general ledger accounts. We can put in our program. So for now, I'm just going to use the all programs group. We can put in a checkbook. I'll use all checkbooks. We can specify a funding source if we're just researching a particular one. I'll leave it blank because I want all funding sources that fit the combination of our program and checkbook. If we're only looking up certain vendors, we can add the vendor. In the class area, we can choose from the classes that we've had access to, or leave it blank to let all of them come up. And I'm going to I want this report to show me by account number, and then by class ID and name, the use of class for the month of April. So now that we view this report, we can see where regular is being used, and now we can see where COVID-19 is being used. If we wanted to leave it to just COVID-19 only, well, in class we can choose COVID-19. Rerun the report, and now the report has been reduced to only that activity that's been flagged for COVID-19. So we can use these reports to get a good idea of what we've spent, or we can also use it to see what we flagged as regular or we didn't use the flag, and figure out, is there stuff we need to reclassify? Is there something we put in as COVID-19 that shouldn't be? So we can keep an accurate reflection of the tracking we're trying to accomplish here between regular spending and COVID-19. Okay, that's it for this presentation. If you have any questions, you can send me an email, or for more questions directly related to the COVID-19 related spending, you can contact Jim Wyke. Thank you.